Okay, guys, we'll do notes on the food chains and food webs. So, as you can see here from the title, these two are quite different. One's a little simpler than the other, but they both have similarities as well. So, let's begin by taking a look at your first slide, okay? I guess we asked the question, what is a food chain then? Well, it comes out to be that a food chain is just a path by which energy, and that's the important thing here in seventh grade science, energy, again, passes from one living thing to another. And we're always supposed to chase the energy, find the energy. In other words, energy cannot be created, nor can it be destroyed. We can only see it change one form to another. And there's no different within food chains or food webs. So the food chain is just a simple path by which the energy passes. And here's your little pictures of that. And just as a result of the arrow technology or technique, I guess, you would say the arrow always points at the mouth of the eater. Okay, so it's the predator or the eater, except in case, I guess, for the sun, would be the arrow points at it. Okay, so what's in a food chain? You have producers, you have consumers, and you, of course, have decomposers. A producer now is defined as something with the ability to make its own food. It could also be called an autotroph. Okay, green plants, algae, phytoplankton, they're going to use energy from the sun to make their own food, or autotrophic. Obviously they're on the bottom of the food chain. They can't move. They can't kill anything. They can just be eaten. They produce food through photosynthesis, and of course they're at the bottom of the food chain. Now, consumers fall into a lot of different categories, but to define them, we would say they hunt, gather, and store food because they cannot produce it on their own. They are not autotrophs. So, tiger here is a good example of a consumer. Now, of the three types of consumers, let's just break those down. We have herbivores, we have carnivores, and omnivores. And then we have subcategories within there. I mean, we have some omnivores that feed on only dead things, and those would be, like from your textbook, you would learn those would be scavengers. So we have subcategories in there, but these are the three main types of consumers. Now, for herbivores, to break things down a little bit more specifically, they're animals who eat plants, and these kind of animals might be, as the ones you see listed here, grasshoppers, rabbits, squirrels, deer, pandas. They don't eat other animals. They eat nothing but the bottom portions of the food chain, the autotrophs. They only eat the plant material. Okay, so a carnivore now is going to be an animal who only eats other animals, and they don't eat any kind of plant food. Okay, so tigers, lions, hawks, wolves, these cougars, they're not going to sit down and eat a salad. They're not going to eat some grass and then seek out some meat. They are only meat eaters. Now, an omnivore, you probably figured out from the word omni, the prefix omni, is going to be an animal that can eat either plants or animals, such as human beings or bears that you see listed here. Now, a decomposer, on the other hand, is going to be in the microorganism category, and they're able to break down stuff into smaller parts. Basically, that's what they're going to do. They're going to decompose materials or break it down. They return the nutrients that are living back into the soil. They're going to produce carbon dioxide and water, and then, of course, the nutrient matter. Now, a simple look at a food chain, and it's a simplified way of looking at energy that goes from producer to consumer. As you see here on the left side, you have, in blue, you have the green plants, herbivores, carnivores, and the green plants below And then you can see how the flow of energy goes in purple arrow from the sun all the way down to the decomposer. Okay, so really, essentially, you could look at the decomposer and say he might actually be at the top of the food chain because he's going to break down everything, including human beings. I mean, that's really not the way we look at it, but it could be looked at that way. Now, there are several types of food chains, but there are two main ones. We have aquatic, which are obviously water-related food chains, which have sea plants, sea animals, obviously. And of course, you have your terrestrial or your land-related food chains of a similar nature. Now, the whole predator and prey relationship is also important. Okay, I don't think it's hard to understand that a predator is the animal that captures and eats other animals. There are some plants that are predators too. Obviously, we know there are some of these animals, plants that eat animals, and you're aware of these. Now, the prey is anything that's eaten or captured by the predator. Now, food web's a little bit different. It's a little more complex. It's a little bit more realistic, too. When you look at the relationship between plants and animals in an environment, there's more than one line of movement between the energies. So basically, if you think about it, you could look at several food chains that were linked together. Now, and this is an interesting thing. A predator from one food chain could also be linked to the prey of another one. So basically, it's all the relationships between the plants and animals in an ecosystem, in a whole ecosystem, not just one straight line relationship like we just showed with the food chain. Now, how many food chains you think you can make from this food web? Probably a whole bunch of them. And I have no doubts that you could look at a lot of relationships between these guys. But remember now, the arrow always points at the mouth of the eater, and I think you could see that relationship. We have a great interactive activity on this from Scholastic, where we get our science world and where we get our study jams that we're going to do on this. So I don't want to burden you with this too much in your notes, but we basically want to look at the idea that a food chain is a simple, straight line, linear relationship between the predator and prey. And obviously this one, the food web, is much more complicated. Okay, very good.